Wilder Show podcast. I'm Scott. That's Lauren.
Hello there.
Hi. How you doing today?
I'm okay. How are you?
Okay. WilderShow.com is where you find us. Podcast at WilderShow.com is how you contact us. The Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m. Central Time. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. And this would be a good week to double the audience in a week. Double the audience in a week we used to talk about.
Let's do it.
So you just tell one person, that's all. Pat, just tell one person. If you've got 1 million people, then everybody tells one person, then, oh, I got 2 million. I got 5 people, then everybody tells, then you got 10 people. So in any case, tell one person about the Wilder Show podcast. You can forward it to them or whatever you'd like to do. And we would welcome their...
You know, it's even easier to tell people about this now. You know, we used to do that 100 years ago on the air. Not 100, almost 100 years ago. You actually had to speak to someone to tell them about it. Now you don't even have to talk to anybody if you don't want to talk to them. You just send it to them.
Yeah, so easy. Send it to more than one person. Easier, right? Okay, let's dive into some of the things. I do want to say a word about a follow-up on that horrible thing on the Potomac. Because there also was a crash on Friday night.
There was in Philly, right?
In Philly, sure was. And actually someone on the ground died as a result of that. So I want to say a word about that. A couple of interesting things about that from, since the last time we spoke. But I have noticed, and I think we're going to see a bunch of this over the next 4 years. As much as Bill Maher tried to tell everyone, don't chase every single thing that Donald Trump does, boy, that is what we're seeing in the news, isn't it?
I think so.
I mean, every single day, it's the sky is falling. What did he do yesterday that will destroy everything that's ever been good?
Well, you know, in all fairness, though, that is a news kind of thing, right? Maybe, you know, if he maybe I can't, I don't really know what people are doing on an individual basis.
No, that's true.
Maybe more, you know, just regular folks aren't really doing that.
Yeah, that's
but
true.
the new, I mean, what would we read?
Yeah, that's true.
What would we, what would we see in our news feed when
exactly.
when we unlock our phones?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, see, like the time that I tuned out. It didn't mean the whole world tuned out.
That's right.
Right. So there are people that will tune it out. But we have some, some interest in and obligation to comment on these things. But I do, we talked a little bit about tariffs. And tariffs are in the news again. And we talked about the whole thing with Mexico and 25% to Mexico and 25% to Canada and 10% to China. And we even talked about if tariffs are so bad and only affect the people in this country, why are other countries so upset when you put tariffs on them? That doesn't seem to make sense because it's only going to hurt your own people. So it doesn't hurt Mexico. Well, apparently it does. Apparently it hurts Canada. Apparently it hurts China. So much so that they have put in place retaliatory tariffs.
Right.
So it's like, wait a minute, Canada, wait a minute, Mexico. Don't you understand that's only going to hurt your own people? If you put tariffs on the goods come in from the United States, that only hurts your own people? Well, apparently it doesn't. Apparently it does impact the country, so much so that did you see what happened in Mexico?
No, tell me.
Mexico, the president of Mexico, interestingly, it's a woman who's the president of Mexico, and she's Jewish. The first Jewish, which is it's not even the name that you would expect to be the president of Mexico, but she is the president of Mexico, and she had a meeting with Trump early yesterday, and she has agreed to bring 10,000 troops from their National Guard to the border to assist in border patrol.
Okay.
Which is exactly what we've talked about before.
Right.
That Trump would use this kind of stuff as a way to bring other people in line. He said, look, the fentanyl thing is way out of control. Not to mention just generally the illegal illegal migrants or immigrants that are coming into the country. We need these countries to do their part. And if they're not going to do their part, we're going to find a way to compel them to do their part. And so he said 25% tariff on Mexican goods. And Mexico said, let's no bueno. We're We're going to fix this. We're going to try and work. So they put it off for a month.
Okay.
There's a month delay, I think, on this. Canada's initial response was that we're just going to put our own tariffs on. We'll take all your liquor off the shelves. We're going to tell people in Canada not to visit the United States. There's such a lead time to all this. So somebody wanted to go to Disney World, for the 250th anniversary of the United States from Ottawa is going to not do that in July of this year. So, I mean, really, no money is coming out of anybody's hands.
Yeah.
It's a sort of bluster and blow. But 2 points about tariffs. Number one, tariffs do not only impact the people inside that country. I'm not saying they have no impact on. If they were to, we even said, hey, if it follows through and all the goods on China that come from China have a massive tariff on it, and all those goods come to all the Walmarts and all the people in America still buy all those goods, yeah, it could have an increase in what you pay. But the point is to bring them in to compliance in other ways and use tariffs as a way to do that.
That's right. Well, let me ask you a question, though. I speaking of news feeds, I opened mine this morning to see, here's a list of the things that you will pay more for now because of these tariffs. And so I have a feeling I know what the answer is to this, but how does that fit in with, before the election, or even really right after the election? And we were talking about how the reason Trump got elected was because it was all about the economy. And he made promises about the economy, and that's what people believed. And so they voted for him. And now, before we're seeing anything about any prices on anything coming down, we're seeing all of this. This is what you're going to pay more for, and this is why.
First, I don't know when that news story was written, because it could have been, if they're talking about avocados or something from Mexico, that is no longer the case. The other thing is, when they talk about how much more you're going to pay, those immediate stories after that hiring freeze or the funding freeze that Trump put in place, the very first stories, you know what they said? The very first story said the Meals on Wheels people are not going to get their meals.
Right.
Grandma's not going to get her, Nana won't get her food tonight. It never happened.
Yeah.
And so a lot of those things, I just think that's the thing I'm talking about with the sky is falling. It doesn't have to be true. If there is a poor rollout of a policy that is poorly described, it can then be an accurate description of a poor rollout and then say this equals this over there. And that would be true if that initial thing had been the right interpretation of what had happened. Does that make sense?
It does.
So I'm just saying that I think I don't expect egg prices to come down immediately. Fuel is the one element in our food prices that impacts our food prices the most. How much it costs to get food from point A to point B. So you're not going to bring down those prices immediately. They're not going to immediately be brought down.
No, I understand.
The fuel prices. So it will take some time. That's why I said early on, hey, give it 6 months, give it a year. Find that if your life isn't a little bit better after a year. But if you look every single day, it's the watched pot never boils. If you're standing there going, I can't believe it. I looked 5 seconds ago and it still wasn't boiling. It's not boiling now. I do think over time it's going to be better because you have these things that work together. Waste in government makes everything cost more. Bad policies in California regarding water usage can impact insurance rates that impact the entire country. So all those things they are much more like chess than checkers. And if you're playing only checkers, it looks like an easy solution, or get frustrated very quickly. Why didn't we have the answer to this? But I don't think I don't believe it comes that quickly. But I do believe that there are certain elements that are true. If you have good energy policy, and if your energy prices can come down, the price of delivering that food, no matter where the food comes from, is going to be cheaper, and the price of food will come down. So, and then your personal expenses will go down because you're paying less for gasoline. And gasoline, energy costs, and food costs are the most regressive taxes. Everybody has to put the same amount of gas in their car, rich people and poor people. And it hurts the poorer side more than it hurts the richer side. So it's a greater impact on people at the lower end of the economy. So I do believe we're going to see that change, and I'm not being super defensive of Trump. I just think that, yeah, if I would say hold on to that news article and let's look and see if it's still true in a week or 2 weeks or 5 weeks or 10 weeks. And my guess is it's not going to be the case. In fact, if avocados was on that list, that's not going to be the case. That price is not going up unless people are gouging, because they can.
Right.
But no, those prices are not going up as a result of tariffs. Tariffs are being used by the president to bring other people into alignment. And I'm not saying it'll work every time, but it worked pretty quickly with Mexico. And we'll see if it'll hold. I don't know if it'll hold.
Yeah.
But I know that there is an economic element. It's like an economic stick you can hit people with to bring them into line. So, we'll see whether it holds, but I think it's a fairly decent start. And I only really bring it up because it's a reminder of those things we talked about. Don't walk around thinking tariffs always and only hurt the people that are inside that country. Mm-hmm. It's not true. Tariffs are not there for that purpose. Also, don't think that other countries are not hurt by those tariffs. They are hurt, or they would not be bringing their behavior into compliance. And if they really were hurt, or if they really believe it would hurt their own people, they would not put those tariffs then on goods that would ultimately, the cost would be passed on to their people. So just two elements of tariffs that I think are important to, remember. That's all. The flights, the horrible flight, the American Airlines flight, that CRJ 700,
last Wednesday,
mm-hmm. And the helicopter, they delayed revealing all the people who were on the pilots on that helicopter,
right? They named
which was sort of weird.
Two of them, right? But not the actual pilot?
Right. Well, they
right?
ultimately did.
Okay,
and we'll talk about that. But even NPR noted it's highly unusual mm-hmm. To not release the names of the people who were on board a flight that was involved in a crash. And it was Rebecca Robach.
Okay.
Her name was added to the ones we already knew that were released immediately, as is usual. Andrew Eves and Ryan O'Hara were the other soldiers who were on board. I believe Andrew Eves had 1,000 hours, which is called experienced, mm-hmm. and Rebecca Robach had 500 hours, which it's a technical thing. It's not a judgment. Is considered normal.
Okay.
So she had normal. She was not an experienced pilot. Mm-hmm. So a couple of things about this. What they believe they know now is, and as I said to you before, I've watched those things happen there, and you can fly there over the Potomac in that route. It's now been canceled, not been temporarily or indefinitely paused. But you can fly, but you have to be 200 feet, not 300 feet.
Okay.
So they have to be 200 feet, which is really low. Mm-hmm. This was at 300 feet. And if that's true, that it was at 300 feet, and they know that now, the question is, why was it at 300 feet? And that is outside their protocol. And it's quite dangerous because you are in the path. You're not under the path. You are in the path of approaching aircraft. So if that is the case, it could have been a pilot error mm-hmm. made there. Also, they talked a little bit about what I sort of opined last week. I think when they said, "Do you have eyes on CRJ 700?" they said yes, but they were looking at the wrong plane.
Right.
And so that will come out, I suppose, over time. One of the things that came out was at the very last second, literally the last second, the American Airlines pilot tried to pull up. Mm. It didn't matter because he was hit by the helicopter, the Blackhawk helicopter. Okay, now here is the part where it gets. First of all, I think Trump was crazy to get into anything on his little talk last week. Anything more than slip the surly bonds of earth and touch the face of God. Right. That's enough. We don't need to get into DEI and all his hires. And I tried to tell you, it would be like Ronald Reagan, when the Space Challenger blew up. Instead of reading the thing, just reading the thing that Peggy Noonan wrote for him, mm-hmm. and she borrowed. It wasn't her quote, as Kipling or somebody. Slip the surly bounds of earth and touch the face of God. Right. What if he had said, and I told you, if we had just not done what Jimmy Carter said to do, that would have been so inappropriate, right? We would have, Trump was crazy to not just keep it at just look. We have smart people figuring it out. Today's not the time for that. Today's the day to comfort. We still have bodies that are in the frozen water, and we're not going to get into all that today. I think I have some ideas, but we're not going to worry about that. What we're going to say is we're here for those, to comfort those who mourn and to assist those as they're working through their grief. That would have been, in my view, I think in any common sense person's view.
I think I would have even skipped I think I have some ideas.
Well, I understand. The problem with him is if he starts on that road, he can't stop.
Well, yeah.
And that's exactly what he did. He cannot contain himself. It's we say unfettered by knowledge and experience. We're joking around about stuff. It's like that. It's unfettered by any governor. I don't mean state governor. But the one weird thing about the Rebecca Robach is, and there's no reason to believe that the withholding of her name had anything to do with the fact that, except that her family had requested her name be withheld.
Yeah.
And probably that had to do with the fact that she was a woman pilot and didn't want it to appear that had played any role in any mistake that was made. I don't know that, but I think I've read some things that the family was a little nervous, that some of the early talk made them think that perhaps they would go down that road. However, you know what she did the last 2 years?
No.
She wasn't flying helicopters.
What was she doing?
She was working on Biden's staff in the White House.
Oh, really?
The most notably, she escorted Ralph Lauren to get his medal.
Okay.
So I don't think it's a bad thing, but I do wonder. I like to think that the pilots that are piloting are the pilots that always pilot, you know? I mean, for example, what they were training on, which has come out now, is a continuity of government mission. It was a secret mission, like the kind of thing that happens in Designated Survivor. Yeah. When everything blows up and you have to get somebody or heads of state from one place to the next, or, you know, so you have to fly a certain route.
Right.
And that's what they were doing. They were practicing that continuity of government route that they were on. Which is weird that it would be up at 300 feet. But in any case, so I don't know. I mean, I think probably more will come out. It's obviously really sad. I'm not looking to point fingers anywhere, except that if we don't know what happened, we can't fix a problem. And if what happened was somebody didn't follow the protocol, then we have to figure out what that is. And if they didn't follow the protocol because for the last 2 years they haven't been doing that thing that they're now doing, maybe, or they're 500 hours, not 1,000. Maybe they shouldn't be the one piloting. I really don't know. I mean, I trust the military will figure that out. But
hope so.
It was
Rebecca
Robach, and everybody says she was a delightful person and all of that. So anyway, quite sad.
Terribly.
And this is the kind of thing that is. I don't know that it's going to be the case. I hope it's not the case. This is the kind of thing that births curses.
Oh, no. I know where you're going.
All right. The biggest blockbuster trade in NBA history.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
You wake up in the morning and find out that the Dallas Mavericks,
while you were sleeping, have
traded Luka.
I know.
And it is just, it's head shaking.
It is.
It is that kind of thing. Honestly, you go, you know what? Everything goes back to it's the Doncic curse. I mean, they traded him away. Do you want to hear the crazy things about that? You probably know all this.
Tell me.
Luka didn't know anything about it.
I did know that.
LeBron didn't know anything about it.
Wow.
Jason Kidd didn't know anything about it.
Didn't know that.
Jason Kidd didn't know anything about it until right before it was announced.
Wow.
This was all done at the GM level. And you talk about putting, your neck on a line for all of time. This will go down as potentially one of the worst or the worst trade in NBA history, or maybe he'll be a genius. You know, you never know exactly. I mean,
time will tell, I guess. But right now, it doesn't seem like.
Oh my goodness!
Doesn't seem too genius.
I was honestly. It sounds really dumb. But it made me sick to my stomach.
No, I understand.
I had a sickening feeling, literally, a sickening feeling in my stomach as I read that. And I thought, and look, I'm not even a huge basketball fan. I mean, I'm a Mavs fan because I'm a Dallas guy, but I'm not a massive basketball fan. But I just thought, why? And then I had to watch Jason Kidd there on the podium next to the GM, whose name slips my mind, and Jason had to say, "Oh yeah, we're all on board. I mean, it's a new day," and knowing that like 12 hours before he knew nothing about it, and would never have advised. The reason you keep all those people in the dark is to think, what are you doing? And so now you got him going to L.A. and LeBron's going to be in L.A. And they say, well, you need to improve our defense and all this kind of stuff. And I don't know. Again, there's so much I don't know about that game. But all I know is every player knows more about the game than I do.
Sure.
And every player, when they were told have you seen the pictures, the videos? Players, as they are finding this out on the bench, they're putting their mouths agape. They're like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't saying like, what? That's so great. Are they crazy?
Yep.
What are the Mavs doing? So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, time will tell if that's a good idea or not. I'm going to miss him. I don't even watch that much, but I'm going to miss Luka, and he's just he's a breath of fresh air here. And I know that there's some training issues and development issues, and hadn't played since Christmas and all this kind of stuff. But I don't see how you possibly. It's one thing if he wants to be traded.
Yeah.
That'd be one thing. Play it out. Then you can't afford to keep him, so he wants to go somewhere else, and he goes. That's one thing. You can live with that with your fan base. But when you out of the blue, pack his bags for him, have him waiting at the door, and when he wakes up in the morning, say, hey, you're getting on a plane to L.A.
And then he's left to say, I'm so sorry. I really wanted to bring you a championship.
I know. That was a great letter.
I thought I was going to spend my whole career here.
I know.
I have an 87-year-old mother-in-law who is devastated. I mean, she schedules much of her life around not just the Dallas Mavericks, she's a big sports fan, but she's got like a picture of Luka on the wall in her little TV watching room. Just loves the kid, and it was just such a blow to so many people, so many fans.
Well, time will tell, but I want to go on record as I think it's a horrible idea. It's a horrible deal, and I think it could be the beginning of a curse.
I hate to even think about that.
I know, I do too, but I'm just telling you, it's such, in my view, it's such a stupid thing.
I know.
That you think, well, it almost would be wrong if it didn't come with a curse.
You want it to have that big of an impact.
Yeah, I mean,
it's such a crazy thing.
That's what I mean. It's like almost it'd be wrong if it didn't. It'd be justified.
Yeah.
Luka, gosh, you came as a teenager, and here you are all grown up as 25-year-old, and we got to send you out there to
young.
Los Angeles, out there to the craziness.
I mean, Los Angeles needs a lift right now, so maybe they're getting that. Mm-hmm. Yep. I know nobody in Dallas wants to hear me say that, right?
Way to go, Lauren. Send your notes to Lauren, podcast at wildershow.com. All right, it is, it's time for Scattershoot.
Okay.
Scattershoot, Wilder Show, Scattershoot with a hat tip, as always, to Blackie Sherrod. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure we do that.
Okay, when you think of cosmetic surgery, what's the image that you get in your mind?
Okay, two things. Facelift or something upper body for ladies.
Well, so is that really a particular, like when you think facelift, you think women too? Pretty much think of women?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I mean, I think of women and or maybe a tummy tuck, and then you have a nose thing, and you got the cheek thing, and you got the lip thing, and you got the forehead thing, and all the other things.
You know
and
more
all the
about
things.
this than I. You think about this more than I thought you did.
Take care of you ladies.
There's a growing market. Mm-hmm. Okay, let me see your chin. Let me see your chin. Hold on. Okay,
there's hair on it.
Okay, there's a. It does, which could really. That might be a substitute that some guys could go for here. Chin implants.
Chin
are
implants.
the new thing
for boys?
men.
Okay.
Chin plants.
Chin plants. Okay.
So this 23-year-old broadcast journalist in Chicago, he was looking in the mirror, and he more and more did not like what he saw, scrutinizing his image in the mirror. He did not want to be identified. He wanted to speak pseudonymously. That's another. Okay, that means I was going to ask you if you'd ever heard
pseudonymous.
that.
Pseudonymous. Like pseudonym?
Yeah, but it's like not with and the weird thing. Okay, so he's going by the name Jack. So it's not anonymously because the reporter knew who he was, and he just didn't want to use his name. But when I read pseudonymously, I was going to ask you about that too, because I don't think I've ever heard that before.
A pseudonym.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never heard that.
Yes. So he's speaking pseudonymously.
Okay, go ahead.
Anyway, he went to Dr. Benjamin.
What does that have to do with his chin?
Nothing. I just thought it was interesting. And I was going to ask you if you'd ever.
Okay, very good. All right.
He wanted to speak pseudonymously, and I had just never heard that, and I thought I would ask you. Anyway, he went to see Dr. Benjamin Coughlin in Chicago, who has made his entire practice chin and jaw centric. Okay. So he told Jack, "You look okay to me, but you could look better probably." And Jack was not planning on cosmetic surgery, but when Dr. Coughlin told him he could give him a new chin for only $12,000,
nice,
he decided he was in. That was not a surprise to Dr. Coughlin, whose practice is, guess what percentage male?
What's it? Does it? But he does all chins, right?
Well, it's his entire practice is chin and jaw centric, but there's like necks and some other things.
It's probably heavily male. It's probably 60% male.
41%.
Okay,
41%. But even that is a lot. Men are paying attention, more attention to their looks and their faces in particular lately. Chin implants are big, and what men are aspiring to is a chiseled, manly look. And when you think about what do they say they're going for? It's a Disney prince or a Superman look, which I think is not very much to live up to at all. Reminds me the girl who used to cut my hair. We would bring a you'd always bring a picture of this is what I would like my. I
want to look like Jennifer Aniston.
Exactly. And she would always say the hard part is, I can make your hair look like that, but I can't make your face look like that.
Yeah, or the rest.
So good luck, guys. I think your chin is okay, though. I don't think you need a chin plant.
I appreciate the endorsement.
I would say, if you're considering a chin plant, if you think your chin is not as strong as it should be, maybe just grow a little facial hair there.
There you go.
I think that, I can't really tell what of your face is chin and what is facial hair.
You mask.
Anymore.
I have another way you could not be so uncomfortable. The little guy who looks at himself in the mirror all the time in Chicago.
Stop looking at yourself so much.
Yeah, stop looking at yourself in the mirror so much, and worry about how you feel and how you are, not how you look.
This guy, though, the Jack, the guy from Chicago, the broadcast journalist. If you're going to be on camera,
you got to be obsessed with it too.
I can see why that might be a consideration, but I don't think. I mean, just think of the male and female anchors that you've seen through the years. It doesn't seem like the bar is as high, and there's a lot of good-looking guys for men as it is for women. It seems like the men kind of get older and older too, and the women keep being replaced by younger and younger.
That's the way it is. I mean, you have guys who are just many times the old white guy, and the young. Any manner of ethnicity or whatever, girl, and that's just the way. It's a rotating thing. Think of it like pilots and flight attendants.
Right.
In the olden times, the pilot's the same old guy, and the flight attendants are in the olden times, not now, but the olden times, the flight attendants. I'm getting laughed at.
There we are with the olden times.
I know,
again.
but the flight attendants were all 20,
young and skinny.
24 years old and 5'6" and whatever.
Right.
But the pilots are these old guys. It's the same old thing. And I understand, but I would say I'm not saying there's not a place for cosmetic surgery, because if you have issues and things, people, it's everybody's own business to do what they do. But you can go down a road there. It's not a surprise to me that he would go to a doctor and the doctor would say, "I think you're okay, but you could be better." Well, of course, for $12,000 you could be better. But I just think sometimes you might regret having that little those two rocks put in your or up against the bone of your chin to make it pooch out a little bit. Just over time, it may not work like it does initially. You may have seen some people who have their lips done a certain way, or their forehead done, or their cheeks done a certain way. They all end up looking like the same very bad look, and they don't look more attractive. They don't look even attractive at all. And it's like, just be. It's look again. If you have something that's going on with you, you got to take care of it. It's totally cool,
right?
But
I mean, like a medical need,
exactly.
A medical necessity.
If you had something happen to you, you had an ear problem, and they had to do a cosmetic thing in the ear, or your nose, or whatever. But if you're doing it just because you want to feel better about yourself, I don't know. I think you're chasing the wind on that.
I think so too.
But that's what I think. And everybody just be comfortable with yourself if you can.
I'd be too scared. I'd be too scared that something terrible would happen, something terrible and irreversible, and the chin would wind up on my cheek. Well,
that's the thing. So you could move around, or who knows what's going on. Tectonic plates move sometimes.
That's true. Okay, so from the exterior to the interior, I have 5 things you can do to increase your health span. Okay, that's the reason that it's called a health span, that's on purpose. We used to think about longevity or lifespan,
just how long you live.
So now doctors really want you to think about more than just how long you live, but how you're going to feel during that time. How healthy will you be? It's one thing to say, do these things and you can get an extra 20 years, but if you're not going to feel good during that time, or if your brain health is not going to be as good as it could be during that time, then maybe that's not what you should be aiming for.
But let me ask you this: is this something I could guess what some of these categories would be? Are you going to give 5 categories of things?
You could probably guess. I
could probably guess. I think 3 or 4 of these I already know.
Okay.
And I haven't even looked at it.
Okay. You want to try to guess?
Yeah. I'm gonna. You don't have to answer along the way, but we'll see how it plays out.
Okay.
One of them is going to be alcohol related. And one of them is going to be tobacco or nicotine related. One of them is going to be activity related, like be mobile, walk 30 minutes a day or something like that. And one of them is going to be about the food that we eat, but is going to be geared toward less red meat and more fish, chicken, and vegetables. Anyway, those are my thoughts on where the kind of places we're going. And it may not be true, but that's what I would think. That's actually my list, everybody.
Okay.
Of those. If you do all those, you'll live better.
Wrong, right, kind of right.
Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, so the first one is just walk for 30 minutes a day.
There you go. Got that
now,
one.
you can get into more specialized kind of, you can walk for 30 minutes a day. You could swim. You can, for women, weight-bearing exercise is more important to keep our bones strong. Okay. So you can get into more particulars there. But if you just walk for 30 minutes a day, that's a great place to start.
That's good.
And walking for 30 minutes a day can reduce your risk of heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's, cancer, Parkinson's, and neurodegeneration. Dang. Okay, it's pretty. That they say that's walking. The most powerful anti-aging drug that we have today is physical activity.
All right, very good.
Yep. Okay, so the second one: stay on top of your doctor visits. Get all your recommended screenings, blood pressure, cholesterol, and now the dentist. We've heard this a bunch of times, but poor oral health can be a sign of inflammation. You talk about inflammation a lot because inflammation can have a negative effect on the health of a whole lot of your organs.
It's true.
So having an annual exam with your doctor led to a 45% reduced risk of all-cause morbidity.
Good. Okay.
That's a pretty big. That's a pretty big thing.
So walk to the doctor.
What you could do that. Okay. You could do that. You're going to love this one. Spend as much time as you can socializing. Feeling connected to others can make an impact on how long you live. While I was doing my research for this, I was thinking about all of the snarky things you could say about how
nice
spending time socializing could maybe affect you, not positively, but maybe adversely.
And see, most people think it would be
Depends on
nice
who
to be
you are.
thought of when they're not around. In my case, it's not. It's you don't want to be thought of if you're not around. That makes sense. Being connected to people and that kind of stuff, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean like to total strangers, but find a way to be in community, as they say. Such a popular phrase. You want to be.
But there's a reason, I guess. It's good.
No, according to this guy, but that's number 3. Be in community or be
Spend
connected
as much
to people.
time as you can socializing.
Okay, as much as I do spend as much as I can socializing.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Okay. Number 4, prioritize. This is where you were kind of right. Prioritizing whole foods over processed
I thought I was kind of right on the walking too. Wasn't I kind of right on that?
Oh yeah, you were totally right on the walking.
Okay, so the kind of right is so foods you say whole. You mean not processed foods?
Right.
Is that what that means?
Right. Whole foods over processed ones.
Got
Remember
it.
when they used to tell us about do the majority of your grocery shopping around the ring, like around the walls of the grocery store, because that's where you're going to find the foods that are, the foods, what you want to keep out of your diet as much as you can, or anything in a package with a long shelf life.
Okay, got it.
Those are associated with the higher risk of adverse health outcomes, cancer, sleep issues, cardiovascular disease, and even more beyond that. And then the 5th thing is to stick to a sleep routine. Okay? This is a little more complicated than I thought it might be. You might not be able to control things once you're asleep, but you can control those last few hours before you go to sleep.
Don't eat right before you sleep.
Well, that's not even on here, but I do think that's a good thing. This is your wind down, 2 to 3 hours. Go to bed at a consistent time.
Okay.
Shut screens down for at least 2 hours before you go to bed.
Okay.
And then do some consistent activity before bed. Read, journal, pray. Make sure you just have to make sure it's the same thing. It's the consistency that matters to get you into a good sleep routine. So see, no mention of smoking or alcohol.
Yeah,
but
good.
honestly,
Those are
they
good, though.
might
You
have kind of thought that anybody who's going to read this already knows that
To do that.
smoking and a whole lot of alcohol consumption is not going to make it on this list.
So your wind down could not be to watch 2 more Law and Orders.
Probably not. Probably not. But the good thing about all of these things, I mean, of course, it's going to cost money to go to the doctor. You're going to have to make some investment in that. But socializing, whole foods over processed ones, sometimes that can maybe be a little bit more expensive. But by and large, these are not things that are going to cost you a lot of money. The exercise that you need, you can get that for free. You can walk for 30 minutes a day. It's not like an expensive gym membership or expensive, classes or anything
Just
like that. Just move your body.
Yeah,
you don't
move.
need a ton of supplements. You don't have to spend a lot of money on that. A sleep routine doesn't cost you anything. These are things that you can do to impact your health and your longevity, not just your longevity, but your health span. And you can do it all on your own. I think those things sound pretty easy.
So you're not just living longer, you're living better.
Exactly.
And of course, better could ultimately mean longer. Any thoughts on the end of we watched the Grammys.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to say a word. First of all, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I would give credit if it were due, in my view. I don't get Trevor Noah, man. I don't think that guy is funny at all. And I don't think he's good. He's terrible with the flow. If we've already clapped for everybody, and then he says, give it up again for so-and-so. It's like,
we already did that.
And then he says, I can't believe it. I can't believe I was here for this thing. It's the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. It's like, what are you talking about?
He's done it for the last few years.
I'm telling you, he's not good. I don't get it at all. I don't know what he's got a nice South African accent or whatever it is, but other than that, man, I don't get it. I did like, I'm always about who people are wearing, and I thought that some of the ladies looked especially tremendous in some of their gowns. I thought their gowns were some were really classic.
Which did you like?
I don't. Some of the sparkly ones
Okay.
they were not real revealing. I like the sparkly ones that were, and I'm not being silly. I can't remember who wore them, but very sparkly, and they were very classic. I thought. I don't know what's going on with Will Smith's kids. He needs to spend more time being, maybe not being the dad, but. What's with the castle on the head? And what's with the other one?
I don't know.
Anyway, I didn't get that whole thing.
Kids.
And my favorite part of the whole thing was, I got to tell you, first of all, I liked, who was the girl, the blonde? short and sweet. What's her name?
Sabrina Carpenter.
Okay. Very entertaining. She wasn't just a good singer. She's very entertaining. But what I think I liked the most out of the whole evening was I loved Herbie Hancock.
Oh, yeah.
I have always loved the work, the piano work of Herbie Hancock. And man, when he was there doing that thing with
it was the
with the girl with the nails,
to Quincy Jones.
Who's the one with the nails?
Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah, Cynthia Erivo.
Yeah.
When he was playing for her, and then he played there, and he's so demure, he's so deferential.
He's not a spotlight.
He's not, and that's what I love about him, man. He's so good about his craft. And then the Stevie Wonder was there. Anyway, I thought Herbie Hancock was probably my favorite part of the whole
Your
thing.
highlight.
In addition to the sparkly, traditional
gowns.
Traditional gowns, not very revealing. And then I really liked Short and Spicy. What's her name?
Sabrina Carpenter. Which I don't think
Short and Sweet.
It was Short and Sweet. Yeah, I was going to say that was the alternate title. It was going to be Short and Spicy, but they decided on short. No, short I have no sweet. Idea.
And then Ixnay on Trevor Noah, and that's my review.
Okay, very good.
The Kendrick Lamar thing, Kendrick Lamar sweeping was huge.
Song and record of the year, and neither of us picked that.
I don't think I got any of them right.
That was happening.
You got the number one right.
I did. Well, you know what? I didn't. I think I didn't get Best New Artist.
No, not the first one we did. The number one, the biggest one. You got Beyonce.
Album.
Yeah.
Album of
Beyonce. You got Beyonce.
Yeah, album of the year. I thought it was Beyonce's year, and it was, in fact, Beyonce's year. She got album of the year. She also got country album of the year.
Yeah. So there you go. There is Scattershoot. All right. WilderShow.com is where you find us. It's the Wilder Show podcast, and you can contact us podcast@wildershow.com. The podcasts drop Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time. Spotify, Apple, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share, and we will see you next time.
Do
Bye.